Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader. We're going to look at some recent sales on eBay for the vintage collection, as is usual for Thursday. And then we've got an update on the Haslab LAAT Gunship. We've got another post from one of my favorite Instagram posters. And then we'll take a look at recent backings, at least as of August 11th. And then we'll dig into some recent sales for both graded and ungraded vintage collection. Quick side note, I don't care if you guys do this or not, but I've gotten requests for a YouTube membership set up. I finally did get that set up. So for those of you that want to become a channel member, you can do that. You will get early access to all of my videos, and you can also message me for any questions, things like that. So I set it up. I just did the standard tiers that YouTube recommends. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm technologically challenged, but I've gotten requests for that. So if you want to become a channel member in lieu of becoming a Patreon member, usually people just become Patreon members. But if you don't want to do that and you want to do it through YouTube, that's fine too. So I set that up finally. It took me a while. So let's take a look first at Rivs Junctionite. He has a weekly post giving us an update on how the Haslabs are going. He's done it for every single Haslab. I really enjoy his... This one's really good. He's got Dumb and Dumber going on. So you're telling me there's a chance. This is like me when I was trying to get a date with my wife back when I was in college. And I harassed her friends nonstop for months before she finally caved and decided to go on a date with me. So you're telling me there's a chance. So this is where we sit with the doldrums. And what that means is not the first week where the Haslab is announced and not the last week, but that middle doldrums. And the average doldrums, you can see here, it shows the average daily number of backers during this doldrums period. The Razor Crest had a lot, obviously. The Katana not far behind it. The Ghost and the Barge, it kind of steadily goes down. And as has been kind of the case here, even from the first week, the Gunship backers is squarely between the Barge and the Rancor. Obviously, the Rancor and the Black Series lightsaber are in red because they did not make it. But the winners are above it. So this Gunship is kind of right in between there. And so it is a little dicey, right? It is a little dicey. And I've got his, I'm not going to read the whole comment, but he's saying, look, if this campaign surges like the Katana, you can expect 8,500 backers, meaning it will get backed. If the campaign performs like the Rancor, expect 6,500 backers. That obviously would not get backed. And if it flops like the Black Series lightsaber, expect 4,500 backers. So we'll see. We'll see. John Miko, who obviously runs the Facebook Vintage Collection group and also is now on YouTube, he seems to think it's going to back pretty easily. And whether it gets to the tiers or not, it seems that the tier unlocks, it seems like that's pretty unlikely at this point. And I've got an update here. I didn't refresh it. It says 3,190. Now we're at 3,200. So I just refreshed it. We're at 3,200 backers as of the afternoon of August 11th. Maybe it'll be like 3,400 by the time this video airs. So it's definitely not getting a ton of backers. You can see here it's averaging 49 backers a day during this doldrums period. And it's below the Barge but above the Rancor. And it's going to be close, I think. I personally think it'll probably back. But if it does back, it's not going to be significantly above that 8,000 target, and none of the tiers will unlock. That's what I think will happen just based on these numbers. But what do I know? I don't know anything. I'm just regurgitating similar to what he's showing here. But that's a really good Instagram account to follow, Rivs Junctionite. So I want to make sure to give credit where credit is due. But usually like once a week, he'll do like this update to kind of let you know where things are going with the Haslab Gunship. So we'll see. On to recent sales for the vintage collection. I've got a couple of different lots that sold that were great deals. This seller had three packs, the special action figure sets, the Bespin Alliance Hero set and Hoth Rebels set for $90 free shipping. That's a good deal for all three of those together. $30 a pop, essentially. Not a bad deal at all. And likewise, this was another good deal from South Beach Toys. These were not in perfect condition, which is why they sold for what they did. Typically, these 2-packs, they're Kmart 2-packs, the Ewok Scouts, the Indoor AT-ST Crew, and the Ewok Scouts again. So you had 2 different Ewok Scouts. These typically sell for, I don't know, anywhere from $50 to $75 a piece. But these boxes did have a lot of edge wear to them. They're still factory sealed though, and they sold for $82. So again, I think a very fair deal for what those are. They're essentially openers, but I thought that was a pretty good deal for those of you that like to open and display and use those in your dioramas. On to the carded figures. I've got both graded and ungraded. We've got a foil clone Commander Cody that looked pretty good. It wasn't perfect. It looks like it had a little scratch or something at the top of the card there by the name pill. That one sold for $100 plus shipping. And then Power Droid had a number of sales. He's got a number of other items currently available that are really nice that I've been meaning to send out to my Patreon supporters and buy it now alert. So I'm going to try and get to that after I make this video. But this is a Canadian Dengar. This was offerless though. Usually these have the VCPO3 rocket firing Boba Fett mail away offer. This one was offerless. I thought that was a really nice looking example. That one sold for $90. Obviously it's punched since they all are. The Ponda Baba unpunched with the prototype Fett offer, that one sold for $80. That price is well down. If you remember, after the Haslab Cantina got funded, this one went kind of crazy. And then obviously they just came out with that multi-pack, and this one has dropped a lot, as is typical. And as I alluded to at the beginning of this video, we talked about already, will the LAAT get backed or go splat? But we haven't talked about the original Republic Gunship, the Toys R Us exclusive from 2011-ish, 2012. And is that going to drop in price? And I finally do have another data point, so I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video. So we'll get to that in a second. But the AT-RT driver from Power Droid, that one's another one we haven't looked at in a hot minute. That one sold for $100. This has definitely come down in price a little bit. In an auction, you can typically see into the 80s now for an unpunched US card for the AT-RT driver. They also did have a beautiful Revenge of the Jedi offerless, and so this is the one that was in the SDCC box set. So this is a very desirable one, and I thought that price was very fair at $300. Honestly, I think in an auction, it probably goes above that number, even well above that number. So I thought that was a really fair deal for $300 for the Revenge of the Jedi BC-64. The Sand Trooper is another one that people really clamor for, and this one was priced a little higher than where it's been typically going, but this one's been steadily creeping up. I don't know if it's because of the return to Tatooine. This is not exactly something you want to open, right? You can get that 4-pack of Troopers in lieu of these, but this particular card back, the VC-112, continues to creep up in price. And this one admittedly was a buy it now situation, but even in an auction, $110 all day long. This one sold for $130. And then we've got some vehicles. This is the Return of the Jedi boxed AT-AT. Now, keep in mind that this box had a heavy crease on the left-hand side. But this is the Toys R Us exclusive with, again, a big crease going down the left-hand side of the box. That sold for $520. And it was listed for $650. They dropped the price, obviously, because of the damage. It also did have some damage on the right-hand side of the box as well that you can see there. So not perfect, definitely an opener, and it sold for $520. And then here is the Gunship. Okay, so this was the sealed Gunship. And we talked about this in the last video, that a factory sealed Gunship can routinely go for $600 or more, versus this Haslab project, which, I've heard from a number of you that there are some charges for shipping and things like that, but it's at $450. Let's call it another $75 or so of charges. That puts you at $525 for the new Gunship plus 2 mint on card clone troopers, versus this one, which is the original. And this box was not perfect. It had a little crease at the top of the box there, but overall pretty clean, factory sealed, and that one sold at $600. Now the question, and this one was plus $25 shipping, so let's call it $625. That's well within the normal range right now. But the question I've got is this going to continue? I would argue not. I was actually really surprised because once that Haslab Gunship got announced, I expected a flood of this original issue Gunship to hit eBay, and it really hasn't been the case. I haven't seen that many of them, and this is really the first data point that I've had since the Haslab Gunship was announced. But I think if I'm sitting on multiples of these, especially, you might want to get rid of them, because I don't expect this $600 price point to hold up for the original issue. It's just been routine, right, with these reissues, whether it's Starkiller or Ahsoka or whatever, that the original issue goes down in price. And I would expect the same thing to happen for this one, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some demand for it, and it remains that way. And we'll see, though. I just think that in general that it's been proven enough. But given that the new one is bigger and is definitely got better details and sculpting and all that good stuff, I would just be surprised if this one holds its value at $600. The Smuggler's Run is another one that's really continued to hold its value pretty well. This box was not in perfect condition. It did have some edge wear to it. That still sold at $621. We've seen them approach $700 very routinely, though. So that one is one that's definitely still holding its value. Likewise with the Katana Sail Barge. This one, I'm a little questioning on this one, though. He's got a Vectis Auctions photo. So I don't know if he bought this one on Vectis or if he's just using stock photos, but either way, that would be enough to deter me from buying this one from this particular seller. If you're using Vectis Auctions, at least be smart enough to cut that off. But, you know, I just found that a little strange that he's using Vectis Auctions and then the Hasbro Haslab photos for the Katana. It's still sold for $2,500, but, you know, it's just strange to me that he would choose to use stock photos without even showing the item in hand. Next up, we've got some graded vintage collection to wrap things up, and there were a lot of them that sold. This is one I did send out to my Patreon supporters. This was an uncirculated 8.5 for Morgan Elsbeth, that witch from Ahsoka. So that one sold for $70. Not a bad deal. We've got the Armorer, the Lakeside Covert World, uncirculated 9.0. I like that card back a lot. You know, I don't know if it's better or worse than the other one, but it's a pretty nice looking card image there, and a very, you know, high graded uncirculated 9.0. And that one sold for $155. So big number on that one for a relatively recent release. Now, here's another one. This seller had a bunch of graded TVC at high prices, but this just goes to show you that if they have a make an offer option, don't hesitate to lowball them, right? This was an 8.5 Luke Stormtrooper. It was listed for $130. Somebody offered him $65, and that was accepted. So $65 plus $13 shipping. So don't be afraid to lowball people in the current environment. Next up was Leia Bespin Escape, and this was this was a circulated 9.25, listed for $150. The best offer accepted on that was $95. And then the same seller also had the Darth Maul Mandalore uncirculated 9.0. That one was listed for $110. The best offer accepted on that was $65. So admittedly, those are not particularly rare or hard to find, but you know, that just shows you that even in high grade or AFA graded, that they're willing to come down on the price to something more in keeping with fair market value. One of my Patreon supporters picked this one up. This is the original issue Ahsoka, unpunched AFA 85, 85, 85, 90. So this was the 3-tier grading as well on the original issue VC 102 Ahsoka US card. And that one sold in an auction for $137.50. I mean, it's crazy how much this has dropped. I remember one of these, I think it was a CAS 90 that sold during the height of Ahsoka Mania for $1,800 on Facebook. $1,800, and we've gone from $1,800 to $137.50. Absolutely insane. And then we've got to talk about the Muffin Man here. This one was okay, but the next one I'm shaking my head at. Not only the Muffin Man, but also UKG and also whoever bought it. So I'm triple shaking my head. So we'll get to that in a second. But the first one was okay. All right, this was a foil example of Darth Sidious, and this one is VC12, graded UKG 85%. That one sold in an auction for 64 pounds-ish, which is about 86-ish US dollars. That's fine. That's very fair price. This is the one where I think that we need to have the triple shaking in my head. Number one, it's at the Muffin Man because he submitted this to UKG with another hang tab inside. Obviously, this is the foil General Grievous. Those did not come unpunched. And if you're looking at it from the front, you're like, oh my God, it's unpunched. What an awesome error. And then when you look at the back, somebody had taken a different card, hang tab, and put it inside this foil VC-17 General Grievous. Now, I'll give the Muffin Man a little bit of slack because maybe he doesn't know. Okay, he really deals with vintage Kenner stuff, right? That's what he's known for. But somebody put that hang tab in there and then submitted it to UKG. UKG should definitely have known that this is not the correct hang tab. I mean, give me a break. It's a blue hang tab with a green back. Now, from the front, it looks fine, right? So, you know, it's just, what are you doing? You know, come on, UKG. UKG, you should know better than this. And it got a 90 grade. How did it get a 90 grade when you look at the bottom of the card? It's all bent up. I mean, this is no way this is a 90. 90, 90, 95 for the grade, despite the heavy, you know, rippling on the bottom of the card there. So this was overgraded. It was overgraded, and they didn't catch the hang tab being incorrect. And somebody still paid stupid money for it. It sold for 182 pounds, which is $245. Now, for a UKG 90, that's a true 90. I would argue this is not a 90. I don't think that number's too high, right? You know, a very clean, ungraded one can go for 125, $100, 125. So for a 90 grade, I could see someone paying that much. But, oh, God, it's exhausting. It's exhausting, some of the stuff I see on eBay. Next up, this was another interesting one. This one was a pre-production sample VCO4 Luke Bespin graded CAS 80, and it's got the oversized certificate of authenticity showing that it is a pre-production sample. So this is, and it's got the museum grade case style as well. So it must have been like an early date stamp on this one. You can see the date stamp in the upper right-hand corner above the proofs of purchase, 00251. I could not tell you what that means, but you know, it just means that it's an early iteration for this particular card. And oftentimes the figures themselves will have slight paint variations, differences, because they're still testing out the manufacturing process, the assembly process, the paint process. And it's really noticeable on the Power of the Force 2 line. You'll see a lot of pre-production samples where the final figure's paint does not match what's inside the sample. It's just slight color differences or sculpting differences, things like that. So I don't know if that's the case on this one or not. It does look, at least in the photo, it looks darker than the standard VCO4, but I don't have one in hand to be able to tell you for sure. But it is a pre-production sample. I'm pretty comfortable with that, given that you know, it's CAS graded. CAS likes to have some information on this. They don't just take the person's word for it. So based on the date stamp on the back, they're able to tell that this is a pre-production sample. And it sold for $276 in an auction. And this is from a friend of mine, and $276 plus $20 shipping was the final sales price on that one. So anyway, that is all I've got for you for this round of the vintage collection. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.